Hey, you are along for the ride with the Mad Dog and Cole. Bet I won't smile. Farrell.
Vegas to Reno goes all the way from Vegas to Reno.
Huh.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm. Wait.
Man, thank you so much, Mr. Evil Knievel, for those most inspiring words. We don't all got to fly through the air, but we should all take time to live in the sunlight and enjoy life. Man, isn't that right, Cole?
Absolutely. And the reason we're able to live in the sunlight and fly through the air is because we have such amazing first responders in our country right here, keeping us safe, keeping us protected, along with all of our armed forces across the seas, also right here, keeping us safe, letting us do this podcast.
Yeah, we're so grateful for all of our first responders and service people. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our veterans, POWs, the families of the MIAs and KIAs, where they sacrificed everything so that we can sit here and comfortably record whatever we want.
Right here at the end of Independence Day.
Yeah, America.
America. Also, I like your shirt.
Thank you. I went a little special ops today. Speaking of special ops, kicker for all your special ops need, be it your truck, your SWAT van, your boat, your emergency response vehicle, your trailer, sandrail, whatever you need. Kicker Performance Audio has you covered. Look them up, kicker.com, on Instagram at Kicker Audio, and live every Tuesday night on YouTube at Kicker Unmasked Live.
Yeah, you've been on one or two of those, huh?
Yeah, I've been on a couple. Yeah, it's enough. I got the cup.
Ooh, for our YouTube watchers, if you become a celebrity like Lauren on Kicker Unmasked, they print you a special cup.
Even has my name on it. Thank you so much, Team Kicker, and especially shout out to the Unmasked Live crew. Man, speaking of shout outs, shout out. I had the boat out last weekend. Dude, these bomber eyewear, I was jumping in and out of the boat, 113 degrees, never took my glasses off, never worried about them sinking, never worried about them coming off. And why is that?
Because they float.
Because they float. BomberEyewear.com. Look them up. They've got more styles than I can name, more colors, more options. Personally, I am fond of the Boogie Bomb. Currently wearing the Mono Series in a polarized ANSI 87 OSHA approved safety lens. Keeps them bugs out of my eyes at high speeds ripping across the lake. When I get too hot, cut the throttle, jump in, don't even got to take my glasses off. They either stay right where they're supposed to or they pop off and I pick them up floating on the water. BomberEyewear.com or on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. Of course, Kelsey Morrell Film. I know she's digging deep into getting more of our video ready for YouTube and now YouTube podcasts. Look us up on YouTube. We've got 6 up now, but we got a bunch coming. Find her on Instagram for all your video, audio, shorts, video editing, recording, production needs at Kelsey Morrell Film. And where will we be without our man Cole and the Premix podcast, sharing his passion for desert racing and his passion for being up on stage in front of people at the Premix podcast on Instagram. Hit him up. If you're going to a desert race, chances are he'll be out there slinging his lens and getting some bangers. Find him on Instagram. The @ symbol ThePremixPodcast at the Premix Podcast, all one word.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have that memorized or do you have that written down in front of you?
No, I don't. That's
No to both?
no to both. I use
Okay.
no notes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right. We got another special shout out here to my girl, the Keekster. And she just launched her own media company specializing in building websites, all kinds of social media, and influencer marketing programs. Look her up on Instagram at Hey Keeks Marketing.
The Morels are like the Rockefellers. You guys are taking over.
Well, they've got a knack for it. So I don't know. I just like to talk.
Hey, raised them right.
Somehow. Don't ask me how. Man, stay tuned. Unbelievable guest, the first lady of off-road journalism herself, Ms. Sue Mead. Next, episode 46. Fans, without further ado, the one and only, the first lady of off-road journalism, Sue Mead. Sue, welcome.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me on your show.
Oh man, we are so excited to have you. Folks, if you don't know who Sue Mead is, one Google, because Cole is going to hit some stats, but we're just going to hit some highlights, maybe some little known stuff. One thing I am going to hit because it impresses me continuously is how busy Sue is, and we're going to get into that right after Cole gets done. The other thing is one of 4 females in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
That's a really good question. I think that was true. I think that's still true. I need to back up and check, but it's such an honor to be there. And there are a couple of other women that I believe are on their way in. It's just been incredible. Men, the guys that I worked with for a number of years and taught me, kind of put me on their shoulders to help me get there. And I'm really honored. It's such a great organization. It does a lot of good work.
Yep, for sure. All right, Cole, let's have some of the quick stats here.
All right, some quick stats that are incredibly impressive. You visited over 70 countries, have at least 30,000 miles off-road, whether that's traveling or racing. You're a Dakar winner, so that's no small feat. You've competed in 6 Baja 1000s and 3 Mexican 1000s. And I think the closest one personally to me is you've also raced a Camry, which hopefully we can get into later.
That's so funny. Yes, 30,000 miles, possibly more now, just off-road racing. I'm a more than 3 million mile traveler.
Wow.
On Delta and United alone, I'm 3 million miles. So it's beginning to show. These are air miles on my face, guys. Not the wrinkles that my age is accurately I wear.
The stat list, folks, that's a tiny drop of the stat list. I mean, there's so much. Camel Trophy. You helped produce a movie about Rod Hall. You co-drove, love him or hate him, you co-drove the Gordini with Robbie
Gordon.
Gordon.
My gosh. And I'm here to talk about it. I'm here to tell. I was with Robbie twice as a co-driver, and let me tell you, he rides the edge. And I beat him in the Dakar. I love to say that, but the truth is, I love to say that, and I say it to his face. I called him in from breakfast when I was in Moab for Easter Jeep Safari recently. I just picked up the phone having breakfast with a young Chinese man who's a friend, and he said, I'd give anything to meet Robbie. And I said, you know what? Robbie is such a good guy. Let me call him. He answered the phone. He was in China. And I jokingly said to the table, which was some BFG folks, so, I beat Robbie Gordon in the Dakar Rally. But then I have to very quickly say, I could never beat Robbie Gordon. He has to beat himself in order for me to finish in front of him. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, for sure. So now, I mean, there is so many incredible stories, but where did it start before? Because I know you basically started in journalism, off-road journalism, in essence, in about 88, right?
That's true. I started at Four Wheeler Magazine. Prior to that, I had a few careers. I was actually a floral designer at one time in Washington, D.C., and I loved it. Did some work in the field of psychology to help heal myself from a crazy family upbringing, tried to keep some of the crazy with me. And I was doing some news journalism in the small community that I live in, and helped a young man, Pete McGillivray, get into the journalism business. We both were working for a local daily and the Associated Press. And Peter was 17. I used to give him rides to school in the morning, or rather to the newspaper, and he'd hitchhike out to school. And he went off to college, and after college landed up going to California to follow his girlfriend, now many years later, wife. And he landed up at Four Wheeler Magazine, and they were looking for women to join their test drive team. And Pete gave my name. And it was one of those great stories, kind of you and I have those, Lauren. What goes around comes around. And yep. I was really touched that Peter recommended me, and we were going to have dinner tonight. It didn't work out. Pete is back in the town that I live in. You guys might know his name. He was the vice president of communications at SEMA. He did a lot of work at Motor Trend and put on Saudi Arabia's first car show. Pete's you have to have him on your show sometime. He's a hero. But anyway, he's landed up with a home here in town that he lives in part-time, and a little wine and cheese shop. So it's a crazy story that I met him and the news business. He got into not only cars, but four-wheel drive vehicles. And that was before it was cool.
Right.
Not cool then. We had to say Four Wheeler Magazine, not Four Wheeler. And before everyday folks, not just the, red plaid hunter-gatherer guys with Lucky Strikes rolled up in their shirt sleeves. When it became mainstream, I was already established, and it really helped.
That's awesome. And on your comment about the plaid collab with the Lucky Strikes rolled up, if you ever get the opportunity, read anything written by Sue, because it puts you right where she was. It's you get the visual for sure, and I appreciate that, because otherwise I get bored. So yeah, even your description on the podcast of something is gives you an absolute 100% visual. That's awesome. And so okay, you did. I have so many questions, and some of them I know the answers to. I know, I really want to get into why you were shot at racing across the country in where was it, Africa?
Oh, I was airlifted to Libya for safety, with Darren Skilton, and the year 2000, when we were racing across Africa, and there were Islamic dissident terrorists fighting out in the Sahara Desert, 350 men who had been doing really bad things in Algeria. They came to do harm to us. The French Foreign Ministry and CIA got wind of it, and they stopped the race in Niamey, Niger, halfway across Africa, held us up for 4 days, brought in Russian Antonov airplanes. I thought I was seeing God when I saw the first one take off. I never thought it would get into the sky. And oh my gosh. And we were airlifted to Libya for safety. That night, my first night on the ground there, I wanted to sleep under our race vehicle. I was so frightened. There were guys that with Libyan berets and AK-47s that saw us off the airplane. And we tended on the ground and made our way further forward. We were in Sabah, Libya. But you referenced being shot at. I was with a team that was driving around the world to raise money for Parkinson's research. And I joined them in at the start. Our leading institute for research in the world is in Sunnyvale, California. Second most significant is in Singapore. And I joined them in Singapore and drove with them up to Bangkok. And we went to the island of Phuket. And some of our camera crew had scoped out a white sands beach that was private property, and they decided that we were going to camp right above it, and they were going to go down and swim on the beach. And I had a bad feeling from the start and refused to go down with them. And I was with the expedition leader's wife, and I heard something that sounded like fireworks. And I've told many people, I've been in a number of situations where there's been threats and danger, and I've told many people, gunshots often sound like fireworks. And if you hear something that sounds like fireworks, get alerted, take cover if you can. So all of a sudden I heard this, and it turns out that the rest of the team that had gone down were on private property, and there were guards that were chasing them with AK-47, and they had nunchucks and red bandanas around their heads. I got the cars turned around and engines running, and we were ready for them when they came up the hill. And they were being taunted. They weren't literally, the idea was to frighten them, and the shots were going above their head and dancing off the dirt at their feet. And it was pretty dramatic, true story. It's actually in European Car magazine. This title of that story is "We Go Now," because the guys were yelling, "You go now," to my teammates, and they were yelling, "We go now." And so the title of that story was "We Go Now."
That's crazy.
It was crazy.
What adventures though, and it's incredible because, like, just when I think Sue Mead has done it all, I learned something else that Sue Mead has done or is doing now recently. Just went and got your private pilot's license.
I did. I'll be honest with you. I've been afraid of a lot of things that I've taken on and done, and that was one of them. I started traveling the world for my work. And Lauren, I was critically ill when I was 35 and my daughter was 9. And that was it was an incredible gift. It was a great motivator because I didn't know if I was going to survive. It was an autoimmune illness. My organs were shutting down. And I was told, we don't know if we can save you. And so I prayed for 2 things: to see my daughter graduate from high school. She was 9 at the time. And I prayed to see the world before I died. And look what's happened. So it was just a great, I'm trying to get to the book. One chapter will be careful what you pray for. But it was a great motivator. I was afraid of a lot of things, believe it or not, but there's nothing like I know you might have some of this too, Lauren. Cole, I don't know your backstory, but there's nothing like almost dying and making it, because it is a great motivator to say that I did live. And I thought that in order to see the world, I'd have to be a travel journalist. And hooking up with Four Wheeler magazine with Peter, the next thing I knew, I had an opportunity to learn about off-roading, to use my journalism skills, and to go out and see the world. And oh my goodness. So I started in 1988 at Four Wheeler, very part-time. I was a small town girl, single parenting my daughter, didn't have a big income. And I wanted to go to Alaska and visit my cousin who was living there. And I asked John Stewart if he'd use a story, and he said, sure. So I wrote a story about four-wheeling and fly fishing. And that was my first real off-road story. And boy, the rest is history. But it really motivated me. And you mentioned racing and Camel Trophy. Within a short period of time at the magazine, I started to see stories and met the guys at the magazine and realized that they were doing things like Camel Trophy and doing some off-road racing. And I thought, oh, I'd really like to do that. And pretty soon I took on both. And I certainly had some fear going really fast, and especially training and not being the one that was driving and controlling the speed. And off-road racing can be rough, especially my first race in a Hummer H1. And then when I started my Camel Trophies, it was slow speed, extreme driving. And I just learned so much from that. But I had to face my great fear of spiders and things that slither in the night. And so I had that. And then because I was doing so much travel, I had just the most beautiful sunrise and sunsets on airplanes. And I had really horrifying flights where I thought, this is it. We're going down. There's lightning both sides of the airplane. This is it. And I remember screaming out a swear word one night in the South in the middle of a storm and thinking, what the heck did I just say? And I just decided that I really like to face my fears sometimes, and thought I'd like to be up front and know how to do this. So it took me 5 years to finish. I had to finish my training in Texas, but I really love it. Am I ever frightened on airplanes now? Sometimes. But I have so much more faith in them and the pilots that fly. They want to get home at night, and it's really helped a lot. It's been fun too.
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing the pictures of you up flying, and one of these days, hopefully I can hop in the right seat with you at some point. But you actually had a flight today. Now, you weren't the pilot, but you had a pretty quick flight today, but pretty cool.
It was. My good friend Trevor Gilman, who lives here, he and his wife are close friends. Trevor was my first CFI and trainer at the airport 5 minutes from me. And he has a Tesla, and he needed to ferry a second Tesla up to the airport that is one of his base operations for his private jet flying. And he needed to get it to Nashua, New Hampshire. So he asked me if I would drive the Tesla up as we drove together. And it was about a 3-hour drive. So to fly back to North Adams with his friends and clients, they were coming here for dinner. And it was an 18-minute flight back after our 3-hour drive up. And we were in a Falcon 2000. So I was able to be jump seat, and boy, was it fun.
That's unbelievably cool. So just so you're catching this right, folks. On her time off, she drives cars around.
Yes.
On
Yes.
top of drives cars and flies airplanes on top of driving cars and flying airplanes for what you do.
I should have been writing stories. I had two things I had to write up today and they didn't get done. But you know what? I was just out there living loud, as you would say, Lauren.
Yeah. Yeah, we that's a big part of how we do what we do here is, we do this for the fun, and it really is about the passion. I totally understand, after my big car wreck and a couple other incidents earlier in life, I totally understand once you've been dead or on death's door. Um, we share that it
Mm-hmm.
changes your passion for life.
It's a motivator. Yeah, Cole, I don't know if you've had that bad fortune or slash good fortune yet, but um, if you make it through something really traumatic that could be life ending, it can be such a great motivator.
Yeah, I'm lucky to say I haven't had any close calls there, but yeah, I think like you said, it's a blessing and it's a such a hardship at the same time. But people who don't go through it will never experience life the way you two have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Cole's pretty modest. Cole's been through a pretty traumatic situation that resulted in multiple plates and rods in his back. um,
Wow.
Cole's a very successful and active motorcycle racer, desert racer, Grand Prix racer, a couple of AMA championships under his belt, and
I'm
not
impressed.
everything. Sorry, what?
I am impressed.
Uh,
It's all local. It's no Dakar. I'll put it that way.
You know what? It all counts and it's all fun. One thing I'm hoping, I've been asked to write a book. Lauren will remember this. I've been asked to write a book for a long time and I just
mhm.
keep doing what I'm doing. But what I've realized is I one of my goals would be to say to people, um, it don't get so enamored with parts of my story. I've been to 72 countries, or I've raced the Dakar. I've been so fortunate. I tried to set that path in place. I have been so fortunate, but some of my greatest adventures have been small instead of tall. I like to say that. And I really like to encourage people to get out where they live, or to, if your passion is racing or it's off-roading, just go and get off-road and find other people to do it with, do it safely, have fun. I've written a lot of those kinds of columns, but you don't have to leave the country and you don't have to leave your state to have an amazing time. You just have to put your mind to it and whatever your passion is. And I'm impressed. Are you still riding and competing with all that hardware?
Not anymore. I'm hopeful for the future that I don't know, maybe technology will change and I get some more flexibility and they can kind of protect my spinal cord a little bit better. But I guess my blessing is that I've been able to go to the races and help out some other people like others have helped me. So I feel
Nice.
like that's the rose-colored glasses on the whole situation. Is I
Yeah.
even went and helped out at a race last weekend, and I'll never forget that. Like I never forgot competing in that same race. I think I had more fun pitting and strategizing and helping other people have fun. To be fair,
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
yeah, thank you.
I I really appreciate that. I don't think there's anything that could ever entice me to do another Dakar rally. I did one as a co-driver and one as driver of record, and I've been back a bunch of times, or even another Baja 1000. I was there was a potential to do a movie on with a women's team this year, and we are going to bring in women from different countries and have an international team. And what I realized was, people wanted me to be on the team, and I thought, we really need a good team leader. And I would give up being on the team to be the team leader. And back to the Dakar, the last 2 times I've been there, I've been the media and support manager for my good friend Amy Lerner, who did the movie on Rod Hall. And it was such a joy, honestly, to support her and her co-driver Sarah from Spain. It was so much fun to make their peanut butter and Nutella, and one had peanut butter Nutella and one had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at 5:30 in the morning, and get their lunch ready and get them out the door, and then welcome them back into camp at night. Driving ourselves, we had to follow the rally, so you're 6,000 miles on the run in a motorhome. But it was just so much fun to see them come back into camp at night. And when they didn't, and to know that there were troubles, to be really worried and just pray that they would make it back. So I really love what you're saying, because sometimes I think that's another really important message to give to people. You don't always have to be the one that's on the motorcycle or in the vehicle to have a meaningful time and to make a difference for other people.
Yeah, and I just feel, I don't have to tell you this, but I feel that if we can get more people at the races or in the desert and being clean and respectful and keep the next generation coming, I mean, there's no greater gratification to me.
Yeah, good for you.
Absolutely.
Speaking of clean, you
he's
just made me
actually,
think of.
oh yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was
Tread
going to say,
lightly.
he's actually taken on also the bike chief role for a local racer that's kind of following in his footsteps. A little younger than him, and he's taken over the bike chief duties there. And of course, crew chiefs this podcast and keeps me in line half the time. And and Cole is the one, when I talked to you about our crazy idea to sidecar the Mexican 1000.
I do.
Yeah, we still want to do that. Cole is my guy.
Whoa. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. And
So,
I don't know if either of you have done the Mexican 1000. It's called the happiest race on earth, and it's profoundly different from the Baja 1000. It's competitive, and it's the real deal, but it's 5 days, and everyone's helping everyone. That happens in off-road racing anyway, as you guys know. But when it's a 5-day event, as opposed to the 1000 that is just nonstop, and they both can be dangerous, but the 1000 can be a lot more dangerous because people are so competitive. But the Mexican 1000, I can't talk about it and not smile or almost laugh, because it's crazy fun. I would love to see you guys do that. I will help you. If you do it, I will help you.
I'll call you when we get it figured out how we're going to do it. I'll call you you'll be the first one I call for sure,
All
because
right.
I know you're behind me. Sue has always told me, you got to do it. I'll say, hey, I got this crazy idea. And she's like, and that went back to when we met. We really had an instant bond. I believe personally, I believe God brought us together at a critical time in my life, where and directed Sue to me and touched Sue with guidance that she didn't even know she was giving me, and direction that I didn't have. And I'm pretty sure you probably didn't know at the time how much it meant to me and how much of a pivot it was in my life and my career. And this was only a few years ago, what, 5 years ago now.
Maybe 6. Yeah.
But it made a giant pivot in my career, changed my heart about how I feel about what I'm doing. And I would honestly say that Sue is probably one of the main reasons that this podcast exists, is because
Wow.
she told me, you got to do it. And I'll bounce dumb ideas off her and she'll go, oh, you should do that, you know? And that's unbelievably meaningful to know that the quality and throw all the stats and all the adventures and all that off to the side, but
Mm-hmm.
the quality of
Mm-hmm.
person that you are, Sue, and
Mm.
how much you mean to me, I can't even begin to express on the podcast, let alone in person or to anybody else. But thank you, because you really did. Your outlook helped change my life and my outlook.
Wow. Thank you. And what you don't know really, and gives me an opportunity to say this back to you tonight. I've hinted a number of times on Facebook. I do believe that God had a plan in putting us together at the Ladies Off-Road Network convention. And it's so funny, when I saw you, I thought, well, this is not a person that I'll get to know. He's not going to where I'm going. And au contraire, not only were we both there, but we bonded and became
For sure.
friends. But the last couple of years have had some really hard turns for me, for people I love in my personal life. And there's been some things that have taken me down really hard. And it's almost inevitable that when I've been struggling, you have reached out on Facebook, either spontaneously or responded to something and said, in other words, hey girl, love you, hope you're doing okay. And I have said to you, I needed to hear that right now. And I have said that to you probably 10 times in the last couple of years.
It's
And
true.
it is true. It is absolutely true. And that's where, yeah, there's great meaning. And it's so lovely that you have the beautiful wife that you have, who knows how much, who supports the fact that we're friends, because things like that don't work if that's not
Right.
the case. And she is so lovely. I see the two of you together and I'm so happy for you. And when she had an idea, I thought she might have an idea of doing something with flying. The first thing I did was write to her and say, hey, I want to help you. So yeah, I feel God's in the mix.
For sure. For sure. And we're definitely a heartfelt podcast. And I've said in talking to other guests that we've had on that have been, kind of like, I don't know if I should say this or not. And I'm like, you know what? If people don't like what I have to say, turn it off.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
unsubscribe. It's fine. But you're not going to change how I feel, for sure. So, and we have huge respect for everybody and,
Mm-hmm.
all our guests and everything that they feel. I've got something funny for you now. I know we've kind of had this serious conversation going on. Sorry, Cole. You okay over there, buddy?
Oh yeah, I'm just thinking of all the times you've helped me as well, and that could be a
We're
whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we're
I
we're
love
not
it.
we're not going there. We're not going into all that.
I
It's
love
all
it.
good. Um, the but I thought of this. This is gonna. I don't even know if Cole has thought about this yet, but in the last, what are we at? We're 46, right? 45, 44.
Yep, 46 tonight.
So in the last 5 podcasts, We've had Vegas to Reno racers. Um, did we
Dakar
freeze?
Racers,
Dakar racers. Are you there?
Baja Racers.
I think we lost her.
Oh
No,
no,
I'm here.
she's still on.
Okay. All right. So we've had, Baja racers, Dakar racers, Vegas to Reno racers, all winners basically. And then we just got all that in one guest
That's
in
so
one
funny.
episode. Like Sue's, oh yeah, Vegas to Reno. Oh yeah, I raced Vegas to Reno in what's the stat again? Cole?
Oh, in a Camry with a V8 swap in it.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was with Robbie Graff, and he and his brother had come from Indy racing, and it was his first off-road race. And it was a class one buggy, and I'd never been in a class one buggy. And we started out a little rough the night before, and I was going to co-drive 2 of the 3 days with him. And I said, I want to know where your block of wood is for changing a tire, and I've got to get in and run through the gears. And I want to know where your medical, your first aid kit is. And he was looking at me like, oh, good Lord, what do I have here? I've got a live one. Well, anyway, we needed that block of wood. We didn't have it. He was impressed that I found rocks and friends that pulled us out. And by the end of 3 days, and we almost needed the fire suppression system. We rolled, and we had my only serious accident. We survived it well, but it was very frightening. And I really learned some things. I developed a lot of respect for Robbie, and I know he developed a lot of respect for me. We were friends at the end, but that was crazy. I wrote a story called racing the Toyota Camry ... for 3 days in the desert. But it was great. It was a beautiful car. It really was. So
did you guys get it across the finish?
Yeah, we got it across the finish limping. We came in on another flat tire, and we were sideways practically on the reviewing stand, but we did finish. It's a movie. It was a 1080 drive movie called Into the Dust. It was a lot of fun. I've been in a lot of different vehicles. It's crazy. Just absolutely crazy, from Hummer H1s to open wheel desert rear drive Porsche cars to the Kia Sportage and the Ford Raptor. When people ask me my favorite vehicle, I've driven probably more than 3,000 vehicles. I get a new one every week, and I don't even own my own car. Oh, I'm going to have to buy one soon. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And people say, give it a rest. But when people ask me my favorite vehicle of all time, it's very hard. But sometimes I feel like the Ford Raptor is like a family member, because that's the vehicle that Darren and I took across the finish line in the Dakar and won our class. And for me, I'm sure you guys have some of the same. It's kinship with your vehicle, and, loving it and loving where it takes you. And I haven't had my own car to name, but I always used to name my cars. And I have a passion for not just autos. It's not really that. It's the places they take me and the adventures I have in them.
That's awesome. I got to write that. Cole, you got to write that down. Save that quote for me.
Will
when you
do.
get to editing. Write it down and send it to me, because it's like, it's just another great Sue Mead quote. Um, I have so many that I think I'm going to get to at some point. I don't know, but I've I just wanted to throw the gauntlet down that Cole. There's two of the three people um on this podcast currently have raced Vegas to Reno. Just saying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
I want
blessed
to
to
help
do it.
you guys. I would love to help you guys if you're going to do the Mexican 1000 and do it with a sidecar. Um, I would love to help you in some way.
I think it
So
would be a blast, and hopefully we can get all that put together. Um, this is this is a great Sumi quote from her very first speech. She was the at just to specify it, the Ladies Off-Road Network convention in Salt Lake. I was there working with Kicker. It was one of the first jobs I did for Kicker specifically. Um, and Sue Mead was a keynote speaker. So I wrote this down. Uh, Unbelievably great quote, and I refer to it all the time mentally. If you're going to have a crisis, might as well have a party.
I don't remember saying that. I love it. I love it. Wow.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
I was looking for the other one. I have another great one written down. Um the reason it's so hard oh, here it is. I have this one saved. I have a folder in my phone called inspiration, and it's inspirational quotes and things. And I actually have this saved in inspiration. Um, and this is a unbelievable. This is from the same weekend. Unbelievable quote that has meant a lot to me because of the some of the situations that we share as far as being close to death and etc. And it says, treat life like a time sensitive situation.
Yeah, that one is for sure.
Yeah. And it's been an inspiration, that phrase alone has been um insight into like the future of myself, if I will.
Hmm.
And always, if you do what you love, often success will follow. And that I hand wrote that on my Galaxy Note with my stylus, and it's a mess, but it says, if you do what you love, often success will follow. Sue Mead. And
Wow. Wow.
that
Well, I say that to people, and sometimes have certainly said it doesn't always mean the money will follow. A lot of times that is part of what gets put with that quote, and it doesn't mean the money will follow. And and speaking of money, I was talking about myself and some of the things I've done. I'm a small town girl, and I still am at my core. That's who I am. And I came from a middle class family, and I have seen the world, and I've been successful in some ways, certainly in terms of making this career work and my goal of seeing the world, but it doesn't mean that I've made a lot of money. And that's that really, I've had to sort of live with that and say, that's okay. What was my goal? And another thing you made me think, I thought you were maybe going to say, when I'm going back to talking about fear, um, I realized when I started this career and when I jumped off from being sick and when I left my day job, I guess, was when I really realized that seldom do we have, so funny, that's Pete McGillivray. probably seeing if I'm still ready for dinner. Seldom we have two parachutes. Usually we don't.
Right.
So if you get one and you want to jump off the cliff, or you should jump off the cliff, in other words, to do something, a lot of times there's just not going to be a second parachute. So you make up your mind, are you going to do it? So, yeah, it's fun to think about those things. And I just feel so, so blessed to still be here, and still working, still having fun, still trying to help and make a difference in the world for people, and work on the next generation. My granddaughter and other young people are so important to me. And I see that for you, Lauren. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. And as a couple of my kids get into I wouldn't say following my footsteps, but get into areas that I kind of dabble, that I'm more interested in just having fun and doing the work and being around people and having a good time and being a good person, and which my kids are too. But my daughters
Mm,
are branching into, marketing and social media and film and music. And so it's really exciting to see that and to be able to encourage them and try and help them. And to an extent, um, Sue is always smiling. She is probably the
yeah.
busiest. I would, you can't even quantify, like, it doesn't matter, uh, man or woman, the busiest journalist in the world, in America for sure, but possibly in the world. And it's all about her passion. And I mean, you're always driving something different. You're going somewhere different. You just did an adventure in Moab, didn't you, with the Bronco, maybe?
Yes, I
Yeah.
yeah, I was just in Moab for the second time in a couple months. I love Moab, and I was there with BFG for Easter Jeep Safari, looking at a new tire technology, airing up on the run, um, and then I was just with Ford for their Bronco off rodeo program, and I had so much fun. It was a lot of work, 5 flights in 3 days, and it was it's just not always. I'm really used to getting up at 3 and going out the door at 4 a.m. and then the 3 flights and going to the press dinner and then getting up early in the morning and going off-roading and then getting on the planes and pushing the reverse button. But you know what? I just, it can be, I can get tired, but it's just when I see what I get to see, the beauty for those moments that we are in the places, Cole, and you do too. I mean, when I see what our country has to offer and what we can get to see, that's where it doesn't have to be international and it doesn't have to be someplace, spectacular. Just get out and smell the air and go and just do something that makes your heart sing.
Yep, for sure. In our intro, part of our intro to this podcast has a quote from Evel Knievel, and he said, "I get to fly through the air, live in the sunlight, and enjoy life as much as I can."
Wow.
And that's pretty. I'm a big Evel Knievel fan. I had the Evel Knievel red, white, and blue jeans as a kid, and the leather jacket, and painted my helmet red, white, and blue, and practiced wheeling for stand-up wheelies for hours and sit-down wheelies for hours and hours, so I could carry a wheelie as long as he could. And
Wow. Wow.
um, So, we were able to get just a little clip of him saying that at the beginning of the podcast every time. And it's, that's what it is. Just breathe in the air, smell the air. Doesn't matter what it smells like. Smell it and be grateful that you can smell it.
Hmm.
It's yeah, and on the Moab thing, I have a love-hate relationship with Moab. I love Moab. I think it's fantastic. It's beautiful. I've even been to the Arches. Um, I've been fortunate enough to do a bunch of the Rally on the Rocks events there, which is a side by side event that was huge. That's no longer there. Um, and I was able to do an Easter Jeep safari with my good friends at Buggy Whip um, and Pro Eagle. But at one of the, I even rode for unbelievably talented off-road journalist and artist. Um, our good friend Wally, we lost Wally to cancer, and about 20 of us went on a memorial ride on one of the last Rally on the Rocks I went to, and
Mm.
I was I learned that I am not a great rock crawler.
Hmm.
It's the first time I had actually really rock crawled, and we went on Hell's Revenge, which is not that major until you get to Hell's Gate. Nobody told me there was a chicken out lane,
Yeah.
and I ended up going upside down right at the ledge on Hell's Gate and slid about a third or more of the way back down on the
Yeah.
nose of the car and the A pillar on the driver's side. Um, and I still haven't been back up Hell's Gate. It's one of the bucket list things that I have to conquer at some point. Um, but yeah, it made for some great pictures for my friends that were journalists that were on the
Yeah.
ride. And
Hmm.
it's consistently, whenever I get together with any of those guys, it's always a topic of conversation. Um, because that's the only time in my side by side off-roading and stunt driving picture, photo shoots, video shoots, all that, and recreational, that there's ever been documented that I was upside down.
Wow. Wow. Do you know something? When you were talking about it, my hand started to sweat a little. It's That's one of the things, times and places that can be scary. I did Lions back in Moab many years ago, and which, as you know, is shut down. And I can get scared in Moab. And one of the things I've learned with off-road racing, that's been really important, a technique, has been to look where you're going and not look off the edge.
Yep.
Right? And at night, drive your headlights. And even if you know that you're in an area with some precipice, like climbing up in the Baja, going over Mike's Sky Ranch. But I it's it can be hard. But the other thing is that we have to have talent and keep on top of ourselves. It's crazy. I say, like, I know, but I still am learning all the time. But we have to have a modicum of talent and to keep on top of our fear. But we also have to have good vehicles. We have to have vehicles and tires. Tires are everything. And so you can be a really good driver and you can have something happen because somebody's giving you a bad line, or you didn't have the right tire pressure, or something went wrong. You didn't have a vehicle that maybe a year or two later would have a different transmission and different gearing. So it's not just one thing. I did a book years ago on rock crawling, and people that weren't automotive thought that it was like hand over hand climb up the cliff. But rock crawling fascinated me, especially in the early days, some of which was, of course, in Moab, because it was the precursor to so many of the sports and the development of vehicles today. And anytime people over the years, sometimes people have given me, few people here and there said, oh, what are you doing? Tearing up the ground, off-roading, and just damaging the earth in some way. I always talk about tread lightly, and I was on their board of directors many years ago. But I also say off-road racing and competing, going even to Moab, which all the manufacturers do now, is a proving ground for vehicles, the vehicles that we drive, moms drive, our kids drive, our kids are passengers in. This is a proving ground for the vehicles that are our everyday vehicles today. We're driving SUVs, and trucks are what, 2/3 of the market?
Yeah.
And we have learned so much. And I've seen so much development from my first foray with four-wheeler in 1988, when I couldn't even see over the hood of the Dodge truck. I remember the guys got away from me, and I radioed and said, what do I do when I can't see? And there was a pause on all the radios, and John Stewart said, you stop immediately and you get out of your vehicle and you look in front of you. But the ergonomics of everyday vehicles were so bad at that time. And it's just been such a joy for me to see through all the off-road sports that it's made things safer. I always like to say too, it's like the Indy 500 has been a showcase for engines and lubricants and tires and many kinds of performance development for vehicles, and Vegas to Reno for Camrys. But look at off-road racing. It's been a proving ground for so many aspects that are important in the technology and safety of the vehicles that we drive. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that's something else that, since Cole is in process still, I guess been what, 2 years, 2.5 years?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Since you hurt your back?
Oh, almost 4 years now.
Has it been that long?
Almost,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah, time flies. But he's taken in the last couple of years to breaking out his camera, and actually we promote him on he's promoted here on the podcast, the Premix podcast, which is where he started his original podcast, was about motorcycles, and now it is switched to his outlet for desert racing photography.
Fantastic. Good. Well,
Yeah,
my good friend John Retty, who's a Brit, and he pronounces his name like that. In Jim Ober, who we lost sadly, who was in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. But Jim or John Retty would give you a hand, and if you ever want to, if you don't know him, and he is just an extraordinary off-road desert photographer with a lot of passion. And there's a lot of work there, a lot of work to be found.
I certainly appreciate that as far as the advice and everything goes. I just think it's so fun to bring off-road racing to people who may not see it, especially if it's a family Facebook friend, something like that. One thing that I found is really cool is when I was racing, if someone would come up with a photo of me it was just delightful. And so if you can do that to a low budget racer where guys are more focusing on the high dollar cars and the high dollar sponsors, if you get a class 5 car, someone says, "Why'd you take a photo of me?" And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you've been wrenching in the garage for 6 months and saving every dime to be out here. You deserve to have some kind of coverage.
Yeah. 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 No, you're absolutely right. So I think we might be just about out of time. Do you have time
Yep.
for one more story?
Yeah, absolutely. I have time for 100 more stories, but it's late. Folks, we're on Pacific time. Sue is on Eastern time,
Oh my gosh.
and
This
we
is,
are recording late in the evening her time. And she has been burning the candle at both ends for days now.
well, that's it. This is not late in my life in general, but when I'm home, I do try to, it's not even to get to bed early to rest or to rest my body and sleep. It's just sometimes to rest my brain. I'm getting old, Lauren. I won't let my granddaughter call me old. She has to say older. But Cole, you just said something that spurred a memory. Um, I only had one DNF in my 6 Baja 1000, and it was with Steve Scaroni, who I became very fond of. And we were in a Class 8 Ford Expedition turbo diesel. And we just had a number of things go wrong. And I think it was steering gear that finally did us in. And he just kept trying to get help and have people come out from the pits. And finally, he just looked at me and he said, "I know you really wanted to finish and you've never had a DNF." And by the way, had climbed underneath on some kind of blanket he had, and there were cactus on the ground. And I remember having a few little thorns in my back and thinking, oh, not only are we not going to finish, but good Lord, this is not fun. And all of a sudden, Steve said to me, "Slip out. Let's just lie here on our backs and take a look. Have you seen the stars tonight?" And it was night. It was deep of night and dark. And he said, "Look at this." And that is a memory that I'll always hold. And for other people to hear those images, to experience them, and to see them through your photos or the photos of people that are trying to bring others into the sport or to share our love of it with them, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. And as unfun as DNFs may be, you would have never had that moment looking at the stars in the middle of Baja.
That's right. We would have been driving through the headlights. Look ahead.
Yeah. Yep, that's it. And with that, we will look forward to, I think we're right up on time, aren't we, Cole?
Yes.
We will look forward to, we have to do this again because there's so many stories, so many things that maybe we just barely scratched the surface of. We would absolutely love to have you back again, and get more stories. And, Sue Mead, you hold a giant place in my heart, and I'm always thinking of you. And, man, I am so grateful that the good Lord put us together when he did, where he did. And I think day to day, we're still discovering why he did.
You're absolutely right. And I'm going to say right back at you. And Cole, now you're in the fold. And where can I find you guys? Where can I see you? I want to go back and look at your other podcasts.
The podcasts are a little rough, but the photography's getting there.
Good.
I go under the title Premix Podcast.
Okay.
So that's Facebook is kind of where I archive everything, and then Instagram would be the fun new stuff.
Nice.
And then along for the ride, any of your favorite streaming service. We just finally got listed on Apple Podcasts, although we've been on them the whole time. For whatever reason, I had to go through a process to get us listed, or Google Podcast, now available on Amazon Music, Spotify, your favorite
Nice.
streaming service. So um, I want to take one quick sec and give a special shout out to my good friends, Crazy and Mrs. Dr. Watson. Thank you guys for being such loyal listeners, and thank you for your constant positive feedback. Appreciate you greatly. I know Dr. Watson, Mrs. Dr. Watson, Mrs. Nicole Watson will love this episode, because Sue is so awesome. I will get a query of questions about you. I guarantee it. But with that, I think we need to wrap it up for tonight. Sue, do you have partners you want to thank? Sponsors? Anybody in particular you want to give a shout out to? This is your open forum right now.
Thank you to both of you. I'd love to come back, and I'm so grateful. I feel very blessed. I've had an incredible life, and there's so many people, there's so many manufacturers, there's so many friends, there's family, there's so many people that I could say thank you to, and so I do. But what I really want to say is I just feel blessed that I've made it this far, and realize that life is a time-limited gift.
Amen. So awesome. Cole, any final questions for Sue?
No, Sue, you've been more than gracious with your time, but if you'll come back on, I have lists and lists of questions for you. So I'll certainly save them for next time, but thank you very much for coming on tonight.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it. It's been so much fun. You can tell I'm a storyteller. Oh, I have so many stories.
That's what we love, though. That's what we're about. It's, we do that's what I was telling you. We do this for the fun. We do it to get the stories out, and maybe some of the more obscure stuff that people don't know. Where a person started everything. Like, many people probably know you started in the off-road industry in '88, but I'll bet you a bunch don't know that you were a local journalist prior to that. So, stuff like that, and just you have so many incredible stories. I know, Cole, I need to wrap it up. I'm sorry. Sue, thank you so much. We'll have you back soon.
Bless you guys.
Bless
Both
you.
of
I love
Cole,
you.
So nice to meet you. And back to you soon. Be
You as
well,
well,
guys.
Sue.
Yeah, to you. Yeah. All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night, guys.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Dakar winner, Baja 1000 racer, Vegas Arena racer, journalist, photographer, influencer, automotive media personality, just to name a few things, Sue Mead.
Dude, unbelievable. She's raced in 30 countries.
I've raced in one. I thought that was a big deal.
What an honor. Yeah,
Cool.
I just love Sue to death. Man, I am so glad, and we will have her back, because I know y'all are just dying to hear more of these stories. So we will definitely have her back. We want to be sure and thank our awesome partners for continuous support. Kicker Performance Audio, all your 12-volt and personal audio needs, find them at kicker.com or on Instagram at Kicker Audio. Of course, Bomber Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear, Bomber Safety Eyewear. Online, bombereyewear.com. Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. Our man Cole, I would be nowhere without him. Find him on at the Premix Podcast. That's all one word. The at symbol ThePremixPodcast on Instagram. Message him, line him out to get you some pictures of your class 5 or your class 11 at your next desert race, or anything for that matter. Kelsey Morrell Film on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film for all your video production needs, complete from filming all the way to final production. Kelsey Morrell Film. With that, Cole, man, what a heater. What do you got?
I will be at the More Freedom Cup at Glen Helen this weekend.
Yes.
I'll be taking photos. I'll be hanging out. If you see a white Ranger with the paint falling off, come say hi. That'll probably be me.
Yeah, go find him, line him out to get you some pictures. I guess it's time for you to do the speech.
Dang, every time. Okay. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform.
Dude, so beautiful. Brings tear to my eye every time.
Now we're on YouTube Podcast. Turns out that's a thing, and we're on there.
We are there. YouTube Podcast. Extra shout out to my buddy Jim Beaver. Launched his own signature beer through Belching Beaver Beer. You can find out about it on Instagram at Jim Beaver 15 or at Belching Beaver. It's called Misadventures. It's supposedly a super light, easy
super
drinking,
light, flavorful drinking beer.
Yeah. So check it out. And with that, suds up. Mad Dog out.